Hey, and welcome to this next episode of the 4D Recruitment Method podcast. Today's episode is focusing on something that I would consider to be very tactical. Tactical and practical, how about that? And it's also revolving around something which has probably been happening in recruitment since recruitment very first started. And in different sectors, in different corners of our own industry, right, there are different perceptions as to its value and its purpose and its validity. Okay, so what I'm going to really look at here is something called speccing. Now, the word speccing may be something that you're familiar with. It may be something that perhaps goes by a slightly different name on your desk or in your business. Speccing really is that proactive process of being able to find what we would consider to be a good candidate, creating some kind of communication plan to be able to go out to an external marketplace, to share the person's skill set with what we would consider to be prospects we want to work with or existing customers we want to maintain a level of proactivity with, whether we believe they're hiring or not. Hence the contraction speccing from the word speculative. So when we do this on a speculative basis, the goal may be, in part, to be able to see if we can assist this specific candidate to find what they're looking for. We're also using it as an opportunity to generate a conversation about something potentially tangible that could be linked to something we've seen going on inside this person's business that suggests, even though not now, it could well be something which is on the cards over the course of the next few months. And it's our demonstration of deductive logic that we really want to showcase here, not simply the quality of the candidate. So in certain corners of the recruitment industry, speccing is seen as being a low value, easy to do, high volume task that some people shy away from. And I just want to debunk that, right? Whatever level you operate at, in whatever marketplace you are in, associating with high value candidates. So I prefer the acronym HVC, high value candidates. When I first got into recruitment, it was MPC, most placeable candidate. You pick. But it needs to be an individual we are associating with, where we are able to communicate an element of their uniqueness or their value proposition or their relevance in today's space. So those who pour scorn on it may see it as being too agency, and because it's too agency, they just see it as being a way to be able to get a load of noise out there. A well-targeted, high-value candidate marketing campaign can get you traction at a senior level and can open doors with people who perhaps otherwise may not choose to engage. And I have seen firsthand people take a high-quality, high-value candidate to market and generate business where that business has given them access to roles paying £400,000, £500,000. I've seen people make placements of £10,000, £42,000 placement fee, £80,000 placement fee on the back of introducing a high value candidate on a speculative basis to a relevant decision maker with an unpack of the logic as to why they chose today, why they chose that client, and why they chose that candidate. So there is an opportunity to put some serious commercial thought into this. There is an opportunity to be able to get leverage with decision makers to be able to showcase your level of authority and capability. And there is definitely an opportunity here to be able to shorten down a sales cycle so that you're able to associate with what they would also define as being a good quality future employee. So I hope if you were feeling a little bit meh about the idea of speccing, that's at least given you some kind of insight as to why I feel you should incorporate it as one of the threads in your business development strategy. So if we look at what it takes to get good at it, there are 3 components that will help us to get good at it. Component number 1, picking the right person. When you pick the right person to take to market, you are able to engage with people and start to show, I understand what good looks like, and more than that, I can communicate it with brevity so that you can see my ability to be able to create a match. So when we pick the right person, we need to ensure that we are thinking about, why would the prospect be interested in this person rather than why would this person be interested in the company? At that initial interaction, that outreach, whether it is email or it's a phone conversation or it's a video, the person you are speccing to, all they care about is what's in it for me. What is in it for me if I pay attention to what you're going to say to me that revolves around this individual? If everything that you say to me is all about what's in it for the individual, like if I start speccing out a candidate and I talk about, unfortunately having been made redundant, Steve is now looking for an opportunity to join a growing business, I end up writing an advert about Steve the candidate's expectations. That's not why an employer, particularly if they're not hiring, is going to be interested in Steve. The employer is going to want to know, what can Steve do in my business that would create a return on investment from the salary or the day rate he would be expecting? And that's where I reckon, conservatively, at least a third of recruiters fail, because they go off on this mission to place Steve based upon what he's looking for. And there's this phrase or this line that I don't particularly like, but it seems to be quite common. The candidate has specifically asked me to approach your business. I'm not quite sure what that actually says about Steve's capability to be able to write an email or to pick up the phone. If Steve really wanted to work for that organisation, wouldn't he have done something about it by now? But anyway, we've got to pick the right person. And when we pick the right person, what we're communicating to the potential employer or the prospect is a packaged message of the outcomes the candidate can generate. When there is no vacancy there, when we are doing this on a speculative basis, the only thing they're interested in is, what can this person deliver? So when we pick the right candidate, we need to be able to pick somebody who can demonstrate outcomes. Somebody who is able to show, if I receive a salary of 80,000, this is what the company will get back in terms of outcomes. Because the agreement between an employer and a permanent candidate really is about a rental agreement. I will agree to rent you with a monthly salary for all of the time that you're able to generate the outcomes that I'm looking for, and for all of the time that you continue to grow and develop in terms of potential to be able to show that you're going to become fit for purpose for the future of my business, not just fit for purpose today. Which is pretty similar to contractors, right? A contractor is trading skills, experience and capability for a day rate. So when we boil down in our own mind what makes this candidate good, we've got to think about that prospective employer. We've got to think about that decision maker. You know, that moment that you tap them on the shoulder and you say, hey, I'm working with this person who I believe could have an impact on your business, because it can't then be, he's a really nice guy and unfortunately due to redundancy. Like, we're going to talk about impact. So once you've picked the right person, you can then build the right list. And the list is going to be the list of people who would most value those outcomes. Again, one of the reasons that certain people in recruitment say, speccing doesn't work or speccing isn't a good idea, is because they're speccing the right candidate to the wrong person. No one in HR is going to want to have a speculative conversation about an engineer and their prismatic machining skills, because that's not their bag. And they'll just get either annoyed or frustrated knowing that there isn't a vacancy, that somebody is now trying to get leverage to create a vacancy, when really what we're trying to do is to show a decision maker we understand the importance of good quality prismatic machining. We know the impact that that can have in terms of the performance of your own business, and particularly if you're deploying multi-spindle tooling technology, then this person could be a real asset, particularly if that is a skill set that you are vulnerable at on your production facility if somebody were to go on holiday or be off sick. You know, so it's our ability to build the right list of the right people who actually give a shit about what the person can produce. And that is likely to be what I would call the organic manager. So the organic manager, the natural person who would manage that person, and the organic manager of the manager. And the reason that we would target the manager and the manager of the manager is they may have different perspectives as to what the future looks like in that business. And on a rare occasion, you may spec a talented individual to a manager who feels threatened by their talent, whereas when you spec that person to the manager of the manager, they may have a different vision as to how this talented individual could really impact on the long-term success of that team. So as a minimum, we want to identify 2 decision makers within each organisation who understand the quality of the outcomes that we're going to communicate to them. And then the third thing is how we bring all of that together to create a campaign, not a single message. Because when we create a campaign, we know that we need to be able to get people's attention. We know that we are in an attention deficit landscape at the moment. And we know that the only way to be able to build enough trust to earn the right to a conversation requires an element of tenacity. So as we start to build out our campaign, we now have clarity on what are we going to share overtly that could be a relevant outcome-laced LinkedIn update to be able to promote this individual. What are we going to say when we get through to somebody on the telephone and we ambush them, so we catch them in between meetings and we say, hey you, I'm glad I caught you because I'm working with this person who could have a significant impact on your team, and we share an outcome. And then if we can't get hold of them, what is going to be our microscript that we leave as a voicemail to be able to either encourage a callback or to signpost the next step? And then what do we put in our email? And then how do we follow up that email? And then what are we next doing with the phone? And how could we start to incorporate video to bring to life more our assessment of the person? And I think your assessment of the person could be enhanced further with an assessment that a previous manager has had of that person that we would call a reference. Again, a subject that many in recruitment seem to feel is a worthless exercise in today's world, when actually the person-to-person insight that you could get from a previous manager to talk about the capability of their machine setting skills, their prismatic understanding, their ability to be able to work with certain controls is invaluable and helps to be able to create more impact in that presentation. And then how we might follow up on the information that we've shared with more information. So we could end up creating something which is between 3, at the very low end of things, a 3-step process, up to what I would recommend as being a 6-step process to start to be able to capture more people's attention, to engage with more of these prospects, to give them a greater level of clarity as to what it is about this individual that we've seen that we feel could add so much value to their business, and then to create the compelling call to action to inspire them to want to do something. Whether that is to reply to a message or to engage more deeply in a conversation to discuss the future and how we may be able to help them increase the pipeline of good quality people so that they start to decrease some of the headaches that they associate with either hiring or working with recruitment agencies, or how they actually manage to retain people long term because they're overly fixated on assessing capability and end up running biographical interviews without doing enough to assess motives and stickiness to be able to predict how long will this person actually stay with us. Are we delivering something to them that they would consider to be a long-term option? So our capability as recruitment professionals to be able to use something as simple a tactic as speccing is very much linked to how we perceive the activity, what we see as being its purpose, and how we get the most out of the components that are involved with it. Of all the episodes that I've done so far on the 4D Recruitment Method podcast, this is the one that has probably been the closest to being granular enough to be called training as opposed to ideas and strategies. Any questions that you've got about any of the things that I've shared in this, I would love to hear your feedback. If you've not done any of this proactive work called speccing in the last few weeks, have a little check-in with yourself and think about what are your beliefs that revolve around it. If you have, and you haven't produced the results that you were anticipating, have a look at the quality of the person that you chose, have a look at the quality of the list that you built, and have a look at the quality of the campaign that you then structured to be able to get maximum attention and maximum trust on the back of your ability to be able to show people this is what good looks like. As always with these things, it's very much you get out of it what you put into it, and if you've not been putting enough into it because you've given it lip service, it's likely the results have come back as being lip service based results and not enough oomph to actually make you feel like it is a task that is worth investing more time in. So go have a look at how you're getting on. If you've got the appetite to do a little bit more, do a little bit more. And I'll see you on another episode soon.